What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Lockdown 23-1. And today we're going to be talking about debts in prison. What's going to happen if you leave the block owing a debt? But first, let me say this. Us Lannisters always pay our debts. And for anybody who doesn't know what that is the legendary saying of Game of Thrones. That's right, it's a royal family that runs up a lot of debts, but they always seem to pay their debt. That's their motto. And if you haven't watched Game of Thrones, it's okay, because I watched a whole, 6-7 seasons in a month. I mean, I was addicted. And it was this year, and I believe this month or next month, they're going to be starting the last and final season. So I recommend you go and binge watch that show. It is absolutely amazing. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about debts. Yesterday when I was making my video, it reminded me of a story. Sometimes people will leave comments in the videos or talk to me on Instagram, and it reminds me of other stories or situations. Like the other day when I was doing a little Skype call for my audience story time, I was doing something with E, the dude that was fighting in the Rumble in the Bronx. By the way, his channel is up and running. It is called NYC Gladiator School. He's just uploaded, I think, 3 videos. That's what's up, man. I love seeing people get into the YouTube game and express their own opinions. But anyways, he was talking about stealing food from a correctional officer because he was starving, and that reminded me of a story. I'm not going to tell that today. But yesterday's video did remind me of a story about me leaving the block owing out some individuals. Now look, you know, everyone knows what happens. Well, if you don't know, I'll give you a quick refreshment of what happens when you leave the block from not paying a debt. You can either leave by choice, or sometimes if you're in the mix, you leave because, hey, you got in trouble, wherever the case is. And that's some of the stories I'm going to be bringing your way today. But if you don't pay your debt, man, it can mean some serious consequences. It could cost you, at worst, your life. They could take more things, you know, sexually. You'll have people, and I've seen this, I told a story about it, one of my most notorious stories about Lil Bobby. If you don't pay your debt, someone might run up on you and say, hey, I'll take care of your debt, but you're going to have to do me some favors. Or they might beat you up, jump you, tag on interest, and you'll be paying for years. Who knows, months, years, you know. There's all kinds of different ways individuals handle getting their money back, you know. But for real, most of the time, they ain't going to beat you up because they want their money. You know, if they know that you're getting money on a regular basis, they're going to post up, wait, and probably tack on some interest. So I strongly recommend you pay any debts that you owe in prison, because that is a big no-no. A big no-no, all right? Especially if you write yourself out the block to get away from a debt. And I've seen that happen hundreds of times. People will, you know, say, hey, I'm in fear for my life to the correctional officer, write a little kite. But really, they just owe like $30 or $40 in canteen, and they ain't trying to pay it on the next, you know, canteen day. So that stuff happens on a regular basis. And, you know, these store-box guys, the ones that run giving food out and getting it back with interest, you know, that's their hustle. You know, that it's just like running a 7-Eleven or something. You got to take collateral damage into effect, okay? You got to analyze and know that sometimes you're going to take a loss. There's some grimy individuals in jail you're dealing with, so if you're running a store box, you got to be able to back it up. You know, you got to be able to back it up, as well as have plenty of money to restock in case you take a loss. But that's another video for another day, how to run a store box, even though I wasn't the type of guy to run store boxes. You know, I tried it a couple times. It just wasn't for me. You know, I got money on a regular basis. I didn't really need to do it to hustle. I was too worried about playing poker or other things, you know. But anyways, I'm going to tell you a couple stories. There's 2 different types of scenarios, okay? You can write yourself out the block, which is scum of the earth move, just to get away from a debt. Or you can get in trouble. I've seen people get in trouble on purpose. You know, they'll get in a fight right there in front of the police because they know they'll take them to the hole for 4 or 5 days just so they don't have to pay debts to everyone they owe in the block. I've seen people owe over 6 or 7 people money on canteen day. You know, they're owing everyone. So they'll get in a fight or something stupid just to get taken out the block, even though everyone knows they did it strictly to get out the block. It's just, look, you know, it's like they think it's a less way to look like a chump instead of writing a kite. You know, they can always fall back and say, look, man, I just got caught up in the mix, you know. But there are certain times where you really do get caught up in the mix. And I got a couple stories to go with that. You know, when I first got into prison, I was in the mix. And the second time, I was in the mix, but not as much as, you know, the first time I went to prison. I grew up and I just really wanted to get back to my family and do what was right. But I was still doing things, you know, smoking a little here and there, buying contraband, getting tattoos done, even on my second bid, but it wasn't no crazy ride like the first time I went. Now check it out. When I first go into blocks and stuff like that, one of the first questions I ask, and this is just because I've done time and I got, you know, I know the drill. I would ask who's got the store box. You know what I mean? I might come into the block from the hole and I can't, you know, I just missed canteen. I might have to borrow something. Or store boxes are great because if I don't have Advil or, you know, exotic things, you know, seasonings or something that I might need for a swole, I'll go borrow it and I'll pay them the next store day. You know, that's one of the benefits. Even though you're going to be paying a little bit of interest, that's one of the good things about knowing where the store box is. So it didn't matter if I was younger or older, okay? I always owed someone a little something. Typically, most of the time, I owed someone a little something, all right? I'd say at most $20 worth of canteen to one or two different people, you know? And it was always something like I might ran out of deodorant, or I ran out of seasoning. What was the seasoning they had? I forget the seasoning they had. Mrs. Dash, that's what we had. And it was expensive as hell. And that's another video for another day. How you can tell when someone has a lot of money. And, you know, it's like the exotic items. Items that people would never buy because it's too much freaking money. Like Mrs. Dash, for instance. No one's going to pay $4 for some seasoning except for the people that got the money to blow it. Most people that don't have money, they're just going to buy, you know, the essentials. It's going to last a while, you know. Ramen noodles, honey buns, a bunch of chips, stuff like that. And they're cheap. You know, you ain't gonna see them buying no Mrs. Dash or no bacon or no freaking 20 things of tuna. Let me get to the story really quick for you though. Yesterday I was talking about how I got moved from a block. I didn't know why. I thought it was for tattooing, and still I do not know why. But when I left the block, I owed, I don't know, I'd say probably about, you know, I owed about 50 bucks between two people. You know what I mean? And when I left the block, I couldn't get the food to the individual because the correctional officers are right there watching me pack my stuff. And I didn't want to leave the food with my cellmate. I didn't trust that dude at all. You know, sometimes your cellmates just ain't going to click and you ain't going to trust it with them, you know. So, and keep this in mind, the food that I was going to give him was not the exact food that I owed him, okay, because store day hasn't came yet, okay. I owed him certain foods. But the food that I had enough money to give him. I had more than enough, but it just wasn't the exact stuff that I borrowed. But instead of him not getting anything, instead of someone taking a loss in prison, they will accept whatever you got, you know, as long as it's equivalent to that amount, you know. So that's how it goes. I honestly believe that if I left the food to give to homeboy with the cellmate, he would have just kept it all, you know. But I was like, okay, and this was a big prison. So when I got moved, it was going to be very hard for me to give those guys what I owed them. You know, I was about to say, you know, might have to charge it to the game because I don't know how the hell I'm going to get it to them. I mean, this compound is huge, you know. So when I stepped foot into the cell block, I didn't know anybody. And when I came in, I put my stuff down, and there was a guy up on the top tier with like 3 dudes with him and stuff like that, and he points to me. I mean, almost immediately of getting into the block, he points to me. You know what I mean? I don't know how the hell this happened because the dude that I owed the money to was out on the yard. He must have seen me leaving and sent word, and I have no idea how the hell the word got there so fast because it's a big freaking penitentiary. All right, so the dude points to me. He's like, hey, come up here. I'm like, what the hell? You know, here we go. The dude's probably going to try to G-check me because all my tattoos and figure out if I'm rolling with someone or something like that because that happens all the time with me in prison. So I go up the stairs and I talk to the dude and he's like, yo, so-and-so told me that you left the block and you owed him a little money, man. He told me to tell you to give it to me. And I was like, okay, first off, you know, I'm analyzing the situation and I'm saying to myself, this is legit. This is legit for the simple fact that there's no way dude knows I owed that dude. But at the same time, I'm like, how the hell did he know so fast? And I tell you this all the time in my previous videos, word gets around very fast. If someone wants to get something done in prison, trust me, there's birds everywhere. But I wasn't about to sit there and ask dude, hey, how the hell did you know so fast, you know? But I did later on down the road, and I'll tell you how in a second. But I was like, yeah, you know what? But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I just stepped in the block. And what's it going to look like me taking food to this individual already? It's going to look like I'm being freaking extorted or something, you know what I mean? So I told him, I said, look, man, I don't want no one thinking that I already owe you stuff or you're trying to, you know, play me or anything, man. So I'm going to bring you the stuff, but I'm going to bring it to you a little low-key. Give me a little time. He's like, that's what's up, you know, that bet. So it took about 3 or 4 hours. He was probably looking at me like, what the hell is taking so long? But I waited until stuff died down, and I put the stuff in a pillowcase and took it to him, you know, low-key. But at the same time, I was thinking to myself, damn, man, you know, how am I going to prove, you know, let's say dude decides to keep the stuff for himself, and I think he did. You know, I seriously think he did. But at the same time, I could sit there, and if I ever came across dude, if he ever came in the block, the guy that I owed, I'd be like, look, bro, dude told me to pay him. You know, I would probably still be held responsible for paying that guy, even though I paid that dude. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? But at the same time, that was a risk that I was willing to take because there's no way that he could have known that unless the dude sent word. There's no way, you know? So I paid him. But I'm very good at reading individuals, and this dude was, you know, he wasn't no freaking young punk, okay? This dude was older, and it turns out, this dude was sleeping with boys, you know? Later on down the road, because I was in the block for a while, and dude was sleeping with boys. And that made it even better for me to have done it low-key because I felt like, damn, if everyone would have seen me giving food to this dude that sleeps with boys, it would have been all kinds of, you know, drama going on, people gossiping around the block, you know. So, but later on down the road, I asked him, you know, after I got to know him a little bit, I said, man, how, you know, back in the day when I first came to the block, how the hell did you know so fast that I owed someone debt? He said, the jailhouse attorney. Okay, jailhouse attorneys. These guys get around, you know, and usually they're subject to one housing unit, but it turns out this guy was moving around the whole compound. Let's say you catch a charge in jail or prison, or in prison, not jail, I never seen it in jail. But in prison, if you catch a charge like smoking in the pod or anything, they will assign you another inmate who is an attorney. He's a freaking attorney, you know what I mean? And he will tell you what he thinks you should do when you go in front of the little board hearing for getting in trouble, whether you should plead guilty or whatever the case. It's always plead guilty, man. There ain't no fighting this crap in prison, but I don't even know why they even have that guy. I guess just to tell inmates, you know, their rights and stuff like that, or I don't know. But it was an inmate attorney that traveled from one side of the compound to the other to handle charges for other inmates, and boom. You know, these guys can walk into the pod, sit down at the table with the inmate's paperwork and discuss stuff with them right there on the spot. They don't pull them out. You know, the little inmate attorney goes into the pods. So that's how it happened. And it's crazy. It's just crazy that that guy got the word so fast. And if you were to see the size of this penitentiary, it would blow your freaking mind to know that this, you know, the word got there so fast. And it just really blew my mind. And that's when I realized for sure that if you got problems with some gang members or stuff like that, man, they can get you. They will get you. Don't ever think that you're safe just because you left a block or a pod. I'm telling you, you are not. But let's say you leave the block and you owe like 4 people, you know, two people a honey bun, 1 person 3 soups, 1 guy a pack of Advil. You're gonna charge that to the freaking game, dog, all right? I'm not gonna sit there and, you know, all the way on the other side of the compound and stress myself to try to get you 2 honey buns, you know? And dudes know that. You know, most dudes know that. If you see them again, you're going to have to pay it. But you're not going to, don't stress it out, you know, if you leave the pod owing just a few things here and there. But, you know, about $50, it's a little bit of difference. And that's some scratch, you know, especially when it's exotic items that you borrowed or hygiene, stuff like that. But now, I told a story back in the day where I owed a debt to someone. Okay, and it was nothing major, it was just something petty. But dude got in trouble or whatever, and he left out the block. And he screamed before he left for me to pay someone else the debt. And I wasn't having that. Look, it's different in my eyes, okay? It's different in my eyes if the dude screws up and leaves. He's going to have to get it when I see him again, you know, unless unless there's some serious risk involved, you know. It's sad to say, but pick and choose your battles. That's how it goes, though, for real. And I was young at the time, and I really didn't give a damn, so it is what it was. But he left the pod on his accord, and he asked me to pay the debt to someone I didn't. We ended up rumbling behind it. And this occasion I'm talking about today, I paid the debt for the simple fact that it was my fault that I left the pod. You know what I mean? And I tried my best to figure out a way to get it back to that guy. And judging by the fact that dude got word so quickly, I knew for a fact this dude's reach, you know, could get to any side of the compound. And this guy that I owed a little bit of money to was not the guy you want to, you know, say, no, I ain't paying. Let's just say that. You know what I mean? He was cool as hell, but you don't want to say no to that individual, man. You know, prison is a funny game, man. It's all about your principles. And, you know, when I was younger, I didn't have no principles, and you pick and choose. You pick and choose who you want to pay back. Some people, they just pay back everyone. And that's how I always was. But sometimes, you know, there's individuals that will pick and choose. But anyways, to wrap all this up, man, you know, just pay your debts. You know, even out here in the streets, there's individuals that ain't going to pay their debt. Same thing goes in prison. Some people pick and choose who to pay their debts to. Some people pick and choose who to extort, jump, beat up. You know, it's you know, it's a big luck game, for real. Prison is a big luck game. If someone don't like you or is hating on you, it could cause a lot of trouble in life. But that's prison, man. People have different emotions when it comes to different situations. But the best thing that you can do is not run up any debts. Don't borrow anything that you can't pay back. And if you do, pay it back as soon as possible. You know, and that brings me to another thing. Let's say you owe, I didn't mean to jump into another thing, but stuff just jumps into my head. Let's say you owe 4 people, okay, and all you have enough to pay is like 2 people. Who are you going to pay? You're going to pay the most dangerous individuals. Picking and choosing. You ain't going to pay the weakest fool that can wait till store day rather than not paying the dude that's going to beat the hell out of you right there on the spot for not paying them on time. What are you going to do? You're going to pay the freaking dude that is more of a risk to your safety. That's just a fact, you know, but never check in. Never check in on your own accord, because that is one of the lowest moves you can do. But just remember, if you do decide to take that route, man, your life is going to be at stake big time later on down the road, because you never know who the hell you're going to see in prison, man. It's a small world out there. I've been transferred to whole nother compounds and see guys that I never thought I would see again, you know? So even coming out in the streets, I've seen individuals I would never think I would see again from the pen. But you'd be surprised. You know, you'd be surprised. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it shed some light upon this subject to anybody that might be facing jail or prison time, or has an individual that's locked up and says, hey, I owe a debt. And that's another video for another day. How to tell whether or not someone is either have a drug problem or if they really owe a debt. You know, because people be asking for money on a regular basis in the penitentiary. And you got to distinguish between the two, because you don't want to be getting taken advantage of. Especially all them ladies out there working hard for their freaking money. You don't want to be kicking out $200 a month simply because someone's saying they owe a debt, but really they're just running up a drug habit. You know, you got to be able to distinguish between the two. So stay tuned for that video in the future. But yeah, do not forget to check all the links in the description of the video. Add me up on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. And as always, I salute to every last one of you who've been supporting me since the beginning, and everyone who's just now joining the Lockdown Compound, man. I love every last one of y'all.